恭敬大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to lead suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Savaharato aharato sama sambuddhasa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
The blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye olahuri sanmiao sanputoshe.
Santo suchedoye arahati samya samputoshe.
Okay, together. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。And try this together. Here we go. Ready? Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Okie dokie. So, hello everybody. Welcome to our sutra lecture. And my name is Heng Sure. It is January 21st, California. It is January 22nd here in Australia. And we're about to launch into our 10 Grounds Sutra lecture, 10 Grounds chapter, and that's the Avatamsaka Sutra's 10 Grounds chapter. I'm here in the Dharma Hall of Gold Coast Dharma Realm. You can see the Buddha behind me, and I've got Sam Long and Cliff. Cliff, your last name is? Cliff Long, and Florence Joe. And so we've got Malaysia, China, and Singapore represented here. And we got Toledo, Ohio represented right here too. So this is truly an international gathering. I appreciate everybody's coming out on a stormy night. In California tonight, you're all experiencing the third wave of rainstorms that have essentially broken the back of the drought, our 6 years of drought, which is a good thing. It's hard if you live in the lowland because you tends to flood. You've got to invest in sandbags and lots of carpet disposal. People who have carpets and then it floods, that's a lot of pain. But the snowpack, I'm told, up in the Sierras is getting close to what it should be. We've had more rain in this last month in California than we've had in all of the last several years together. So if we can endure the storms, hopefully it'll break the back of the drought. And we can go back to not having to ration and choose between livestock and crops that a lot of farmers have done in the Central Valley. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's not. Don't want to count our chickens yet, but it looks pretty good. And we're only not even quite halfway through the storm season. So we'll see how it goes. Here in Queensland, we've had a lot of heat regularly. Had many days up over 90 and some close to 100. And of course, they counted here in the 30s. So we've had 36-degree days and 37-degree days, which is pretty close to 100. But that's just at midday. Cools off in the morning, cools off at night. So pretty nice for summer. Before we begin, we want to invoke the spirit of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Avatamsaka assembly. So we do that by reciting the name of the sutra. And so let's see now. That's what I want. All right. Here we go. Here on the cover of our text, which we haven't yet upgraded, is what we're going to be chanting. So I'd like to invite people to join in with me if you care to. We're going to be chanting in Chinese. Above is the English that we're chanting. Namo Ta Fang Huang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Wo Pu Sa Namo Ta Fang Huang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Wo Pu Sa Namo Ta Fang Huang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Wo Pu Sa Namo Ta Fang Huang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Wo Pu Sa Namo Ta Fang Huang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Wo Pu Sa Namo Ta Fang Huang Fu Huayan Jing Huayan Hai Hui Wo Pu Sa. Okay. Let's make this window smaller and bring up our text. Okay, there we go. So again, I want to encourage folks to get involved in our text as we go. Let's see here, any questions that you might have as we lecture, hope you will bring them up on the spot. You may have to shout to get my attention. And also, if it's Jerry or Yenlin, our tireless tech crew, if you can type in a message on the chat box telling me to pay attention to somebody's question, that will help too. Okay, here we go. We're going to start right here, see if we can get all the way down to that part of the text. What's coming up right now in our text is a list of samadhis. So it's fairly cut and dried and repetitive. So what I'm going to do is lubricate my throat to get ready. This is my 4th lecture so far this weekend. So here we go. Let's read 3 of them. No, we'll read down the list. And what I think we'll do, instead of my calling and you responding, which is the way we usually do it, that the distance makes that little lag kind of hard to coordinate. So let's read in unison, okay? Read together in unison. Let's bring it out so we can see it. There, nice and big. That's big enough, right? People can see. So let's read this much, and then we'll go over and catch the same amount in English. Okay, ready? Here we go. 佛子菩萨住此地，入菩萨善观则三昧，善则意三昧，最胜慧三昧，分别意藏三昧，如实分别意三昧，善住坚固根三昧，智慧神通门三昧，法界业三昧，如来胜利三昧，种种义藏生死涅槃门三昧，如是等具足大智神通门百万三昧，尽至此地。Okay, how did you do with your Chinese? Improving? I'll bet. Because there's so much repetition, this is perfect for practicing our Chinese pronunciation and our understanding of what's going on here. Okay, we will start right here. This is the spot. And there we go. Okay, and we'll read down. Now let's try it again in unison. You ready? You want to do this together with me? Make it a little bigger. It's quite a long passage to read together, but let's see. I bet we can do it. Here we go, starting right here. Disciples of the Buddha. The Bodhisattva, while staying on this ground, masters the Bodhisattva's samadhi of skillfully contemplating and selecting, the samadhi of skillfully selecting meanings, the samadhi of especially supreme wisdom, the samadhi of discerning the treasury of meanings, the samadhi of discerning meanings as they really are, the samadhi of skillfully abiding in durable roots, the samadhi of the door to spiritual powers and wisdom, the samadhi of karma of the Dharma realm, the samadhi of a Tathagata's supreme benefiting, and the samadhi of the door to the treasury of manifold meanings of birth and death and nirvana. He enters 1,000,000 such samadhis of perfecting gateways to great wisdom and psychic powers which purify this ground. You all get that much? No. What was that about? Don't worry. A lot of this is very technical language, but there are patterns, and we'll pick out the patterns and then get to know what's going on. Put it in the context. Our Bodhisattva, who is the hero of the Avatamsaka Sutra, here has gone all the way up to the 7th ground, sometimes called the 7th stage of her progress towards Buddhahood. And number 7 was, of course, based on the preceding 6, the 6 grounds that preceded it. And it is a crossroads, a turning point for the 3 that follow, 8, 9, and 10. It's a critical moment in the path of the Bodhisattva, in his spiritual progress. And the important thing to know about this is, at the 6th step, the Bodhisattva encountered emptiness as emptiness as a reality for him or her. And when that happens, stuff doesn't taste, smell, look, hear, feel, or seem the way it did before. The Bodhisattva can see through things as he never could before. And being able to see through things could make you crazy, could make you doubt your sanity. Not in this case. Because why? The Bodhisattva has had 5 trainings, 5 courses before he got to number 6. The 5th one was all about meditation. And in the 5th ground, the Bodhisattva got his samadhi together. In this case, what that might mean is this Bodhisattva can encounter all kinds of stuff and not waver. Things can go really, really wrong. Things can get really crazy. And the Bodhisattva's still there. Still like, yeah. There was a cause for this that came about because of conditions. It's going to go away when those conditions scatter. Pretty much same old. Why get upset? Says the Bodhisattva. So that's samadhi, right? You not that you're a piece of wood, but stuff doesn't throw you like it used to. Doesn't disturb you like it used to. So this Bodhisattva is good at that now, and good at that meditation. Then when he gets to stage number 6, which was all about the 12 links of conditioned arising, pratitya samuppada, when he got to that part, that course, you could say, that evolutionary stage in his development, all kinds of things were visible to him that he couldn't see before. What he's seeing now is how the world was made up. And because it's how the world is made up, it's how the world falls apart too. So coming together and going apart in links, pulling each other along. Bodhisattva saw that and went, ooh, whoa. So what would that be like? If, let's say, suppose we could all suddenly see every bit of electricity running around our smartphones every time we complete a text message. That might be the same. I'm making this up. I'm woofing on this. But think about it. In your phone, I happen to have one right here with me. Here's a phone. Okay. And oh, there's a kookaburra. Yeah. In this phone, there is a silicon wafer. And in that silicon wafer, there are little trails of, is it copper or is it molybdenum chloride or whatever the circuits are made of. You may know, what are circuits made of in a chip? Is it copper? I think it's copper wire. They're really, really fine to like a micron fine. And it's just like a road. And that's what that particular, the capacity of that chip in your phone can handle. And now they're, Moore's law in computers said that every 18 months you double the amount of computing power you can put in the same amount of, the same size wafer. So every time you want to go tap, 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 send, little charges go running around certain wires. And connections are made in a very mechanical, extremely mechanical way. And through the magic of the graphic user interface, you see it as your familiar text service. There's the box. Type your message here, send. That last little layer of integrating it so you understand it is, is like, okay, well, there's a human being operating it. But 90% of what's going on in every text message is these scrambling of electrons, little tiny charges going like that. And the modem fires up and it sends out a infrared microwave signal that the cell tower picks up, and all of that stuff actually happens every time you send a text message. What do? We go, I'm waiting for him to answer. I haven't heard back yet. You know, we're totally oblivious to everything going on inside that amazing device, so that I get my text message the way I want it, not to somebody else, and I can understand it. It doesn't get garbled. You know? So we don't see that. We just like to get the message. So, okay, right. And smartphones are amazing. Okay, and that's just a text message. When you are using something sophisticated like internet telephony, voice over internet protocol conferencing software, like you're hearing me come to you on right now. Moreover, we're sending it out to YouTube, to online video collator at the same time. That's really sophisticated. A lot of electrons are running around. The Bodhisattva. So we got that part, got that analogy, right? The Bodhisattva, who was recently on the sixth ground, sees how everything in human life, everything in the planet, every perception that he has, every bit of consciousness that he's functioning with and will function with, and everybody entirely without exception who's lived to this moment, and entirely without exception, everybody who's going to be alive from this moment, has been operating because of a series of connecting links that pull each other into being. It's called pratitya samutpada. And this is how, from the Buddhist point of view, how creation happens. And it always has been. But it happens so quickly, it happens at a subtle level that we don't see it. Just the way we don't see all the beep, 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 beep in our cell phone or smartphone when we send a text message or get a phone call or browse the web. Likewise, all that stuff is going on inside me, inside you, right this instant. And the Buddha saw it and said, aha, 12 links pull each new phenomena into being, and when those linkages break, it stops. There you go. And in our sixth ground, it described it in like 10 different ways, exhaustively examining, holding it up like a prism to all the different sides, and the light shines green here, yellow here, red here, blue here. That's the way that the Avatamsaka Sutra explained the linking of creative conditioned co-production. So there you go. And, okay, so there are these 12 things, starting with ignorance, pulling all the way down to old age, sickness, death, and suffering, and reversing it so that suffering comes to an end. But by looking at it that way, you know what else we see is the emptiness around it. That when those links stop, there's nothing. And all karma that we create is voluntary. We do it, well, not entirely voluntary. Some of it is just the wind of past karma. But it can stop. That's the point. And so the Bodhisattva, because of his meditation, is able to see that whole thing happening in his body, in his mind, and in every other living being's body and mind. And against this huge, infinite backdrop of emptiness, where there's nothing going on, and as Sherpa would say, everything's okay, here we are running amok, right? And occasionally doing good. So that was ground 6. All right. From ground 6, because pratitya samutpada, this notion of emptiness, is really cold. It's not sympathetic, right? It's not warm and fuzzy at all. It's just kind of relentless and implacable emptiness and the fertility of action to produce reaction. Bodhisattva experiences compassion. That's the big deal. He says, wow, all this suffering we're going through is simply because we don't see what's going on, and we let it pull us. All you have to do is to wake up and stop at certain points among the 12 steps and it all falls apart, and suffering ends. I see that. Why doesn't everybody else see it? Too much pain. How sad, says the Bodhisattva. And she resolves to do whatever it takes to wake other people up. So that's a real principle of the Mahayana that I like a whole lot, which is when you get to emptiness and you really see it, how suffering is such a, it's so avoidable. The Bodhisattva, in the face of emptiness, brings forth compassion. That's a big moment, right? He says, oh, it's so sad. People are just suffering needlessly. I'm going to wake them up. So here we are. That's our prelude, right? We're now in the seventh ground. And the Bodhisattva finds expedient ways to wake people up. So this is all about expedient wisdom, skillful means. And part of our chapter has been talking about what happens when you get there. One of the things that happens when you get there is your body and mind go through these changes, huge changes that mess you up unless you have the foundation of samadhi. And these changes, again, would make you think you're just, something's gone wrong, because everything you thought you knew about reality is proving to be just an illusion, like a dream. And the Bodhisattva has to go through this, has to go through these changes, and can't forget his resolve, her resolve to save beings. That's the big deal, not to get sidetracked. Okay? Now, one of the things that happens is called samadhi. Sanmei. I'm going to bring up my notes here. Here's our notes. Right there. So let's look at samadhi. Samadhi. Chinese is oops, try again here. There we go. Sanmei. I think, why didn't the Chinese come up with something? What happened to the D? Well, the Chinese don't quite have those sounds. Samadhi. So sometimes they do that. Sometimes they do samadhi. Sometimes they just do sanmei. This is the DH glottal. The Chinese don't have that sound, and that's a very common Indian sound. So they did sanmei. But they also did a translation of it. Sanmei is an attempt to match the sound. Here's an attempt to capture the meaning. Show. Right? It's the show without the show TBN, right? It's just the standard show. Okay, Jia show. All right, here we go. What have we got? Sanmei. And Zheng. Ding. Zheng. Show. So this is the translation of the word for samadhi. All right. Bring it up a little bigger here so everybody can see it. Now, what is this? This is a big part of Buddhism, not for non-beginners, intermediate Buddhism. You only need to really understand thoroughly what samadhi is about once you've established a regular meditative practice, once you sit for a while. Samadhi happens to everybody who sits long enough if you're using a proper method. And there are different levels of samadhi. The ones that Master Hua introduced us to first were what are called the 4 dhyanas. Now we often run into this phrase as a compound with the word chan, ding. Chan is dhyana, right? There we go. Chan, ding. Or Dhyana samadhi. Dhyana samadhi. Sanskrit. At a certain point, we stopped italicizing samadhi. We just kind of made it a Western word. So they're both dhyana and samadhi are not English; they're Sanskrit. But these are words so important in our practice that we just kind of officially brought them over. Chandin. So you can italicize it or not. Let's say we don't. Dhyana samadhi. There we go. Okay, Chan, that's our word for Zen, right? For Chan, the Chan school, meditation. Some people simply translate this as meditation. They don't even worry about the samadhi part. But in fact, Master Hua introduced us to the Si Chan, Si Chan Ding. And these are the 4 stages of Chan Samadhi. There's a good DRBA BTTS version, right? We've got Chinese word, a Sanskrit word, and English words. So, okay, there we go. So the 4 stages of Chan Samadhi, of Dhyana Samadhi, 4 stages of meditation. Sherpa said these are the first dhyanas to get into. You can get into these, the first samadhis that you can get into. He said all you have to do is practice and put an end to coarse desire, and you can enter the first dhyana, the second dhyana, the third dhyana, the fourth dhyana. Okay, Sejong Chanding. And they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, but they're big difference in your experience of these. If you meditate until the dhyanas, until you're into that intermediate stage of meditation, and things happen like what? Well, your pulse stops, your breath stops, your coarse thoughts stop, your subtle thoughts stop, and desires are very, very thin and cool. You're not profoundly emotional. You're not a hair trigger personality any longer, or pull you right out of the samadhi that you could have been enjoying. So these are the early stages of samadhi. But look at our text. Here's our text we just read. There we go. When the Bodhisattva on this ground, when the Bodhisattva is on this ground, he masters. Here's our verb. This is the first thing the Bodhisattva does. He, she masters what? Samadhi of, the samadhi of, the samadhi of. 10 samadhis. We get a list of 10 things the Bodhisattva is embodying. In common, ordinary, everyday English, we would say he gets. He totally groks. He totally enters and embodies 10 stages of samadhi beyond the simple Chan Samadhi, before the fourth Sichan. These are fancy samadhis with a name. Okay, so what's a fancy samadhi that has a name? There are many types of samadhi. Some with specific names, descriptions, abilities, times, durations, functions, etc. For example, we talk about the Shurangama Samadhi. Not so much in this particular sutra that we're studying now, but there's the Shurangama Sutra that talks all about what happens when that Shurangama Samadhi interacts with your life. That's a specific samadhi that you can get into. There's a famous one in the Avatamsaka called the Hai In Sane, the ocean imprint, the ocean signet samadhi, which is what? When you and you put your body and mind, and you enter into this samadhi, and it's kind of like you know, what would it be like? First of all, I don't know. It's not my samadhi, as if I had samadhi. But I can give you an analogy for what it's like. You know that state just before sleep. You're in the twilight area between having been totally awake, you know, checking your email before you go to bed, or saying goodnight to friends, family, and then you put your head on the pillow and you're not yet asleep. That's one of those, you know, something comes on you, and you know from experience, you do it every night, you know that within a few minutes you're going to be asleep. Something comes on you, right? These samadhis are like that. What would another one be? Can you remember, this probably, if you're an athlete, this is actually kind of appropriate. If you're an athlete, have you ever gotten to that place when you're, let's say you're jogging? You can do it when you're swimming. You can do it when you're power walking, I suppose. But your body, instead of getting tired and saying, oh, it's time to stop, it's as if your body shifts gears. And you get what's called a second wind. And you can now keep running for the next mile, the next 2 miles, the next 3 miles, without, you know, without having to stop because you're rolling on the ground, gasping, you're out of air or something like that, or you have cramps in your legs. Swimmers talk about that. You go through the wall, you hit the wall and go through the wall, where you can now swim as long as you like. Just keep that rhythm going, and you don't get tired. Cyclists, I know, get to that place too, bike riders. Your body just gets a rhythm, and you keep on going, and it's like you shifted gears. These samadhis are like you shifted gears, right? It's your thoughts are not in charge of you as they used to be, obstructing your thinking, distracting you, confusing you, scattering your energy, doing what our thoughts do with us when we try to meditate. Instead, the thoughts just kind of flip over and become no more important than the sights for the eyes, sounds for the ears, tastes for the tongue, you know, smells for the nose, touch for the body. They integrate, and there's a flip, and your meditation is different than before. That's what these might be like. Now, for sure, no, not for sure, but I'm trying to build a bridge over to what this must be like. The Bodhisattva on the seventh ground has experienced this compassion, wants to teach, sees living beings who are totally needing that teaching, and he masters samadhis so that he can teach them. They have names. Here is one: skillfully contemplating and selecting. Oh, skillfully contemplating and selecting. You know what that sounds like. That sounds like that first of the 7 Bodhi shares called Nian, 觉知, Ci, Fa, 觉知, selecting Dharma, Bodhi wing, right? Mindfulness and Dharma selecting. This is in Chinese, I understand it, but we looked at these last week. So the second of the Bodhi share dharmas is just like this. Now the Bodhisattva is good at it. Shan, Guan, Zi, San, Mei. There it is right there. He's good at it. To be good at. The early translation took Shan and translated it every time as well, to well do something. Ain't English. Sorry, not the way we say it. Skillful, to be good at. The Bodhisattva is good at contemplating and selecting. Among what? Among methods. Do you anybody know a good Chinese doctor? I was in Oakland not that long ago at Dr. Zhang's office. Dr. Zhang is a really good physician. He's a teacher of other Chinese doctors. And I had a particular imbalance in my system. And what did he do? First, he, took the pulse, looked at my tongue, looked at my eyes, the color of my eyes, and all the white around the eye. And so I was with a friend who also knows Chinese medicine, and they were, comparing notes and naming, oh, it's this and this and this, yeah, this and this and this. Oh, right, this and this and this. And oh, you know what he needs? He needs this and this. And my companion, my driver who took me there, my friend who was introduced me to the doctor, said, well, he's a vegetarian, so you can't use that one. They were talking about what? Animal herbs that would come from the body of an animal, whatever it might be, deer horn or something like that, and or frog bile, or I don't know, who knows. And so, yeah, I know that. Well, we'll use this instead, right? And I was going, good doctor. He gets to the same destination by a different road. He can eliminate one herb and replace it with another one that gets introduces the same quality. So here's our Bodhisattva skillfully contemplating and selecting among 84,000 methods how he's going to teach. That's the samadhi, a Bodhisattva samadhi, where you look at the situation and you see it clearly and know what to do. Pretty good. Number one. Number two, the samadhi of skillfully selecting meanings. Okay, this word pops up a lot right there. E. We got it once. We got it twice. We got it. I thought, here it is again, 3 times, yes. So among the 10 samadhis, this word meaning comes up 3 times. What does it mean? Skillfully selecting meanings. Notice, remember, to make sense of this, our Bodhisattva is a teacher. In the last 2 lectures, it mentioned what? He has remembered all the lessons he got on the 5th ground. Remember that right here. Do-de-do-de-do. He naturally practices worldly classics and skills as described in the 5th ground without having to apply effort. So he has absorbed all of the wisdom and knowledge and skills that the Bodhisattva on the 5th ground can do, only now he's got them effortlessly. What were those? That was the Buddhist equivalent of a liberal arts education from the Buddhist time. And it's not simply book learning. The effective liberal arts education back then meant you were a good doctor, you were a good mechanic, you were an athlete, you were a horse chariot driver, you were a charioteer, you were an archer, you were an architect, you were a gem cutter, you were a logician, you were a poet, you were a musician. All those things were what an educated person needed to know. Now there's the 5th ground. Why? Because you're going to be teaching people in the world. So here's our Bodhisattva. He's mastered that stuff, and he can select meanings that he will communicate to living beings so they go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I'll stop hitting myself in the head with a hammer. That's a good idea. I never thought of that before. I've just been hitting myself in the head with this hammer for the longest time. You hadn't told me to stop, I'd probably still be doing it. I get you. I see what you mean, says the living beings, right? So he's really good at, he knows when to say it and how to say it. What else? The samadhi of specially supreme wisdom. Okay? Really works. The samadhi of discerning the treasury of meanings. All right. I've yesterday Sam and Tori, a friend of ours here, Gold Coast, went out to a chunk of bush forest, just 10 minutes by car from here, and we'd been told by Tori that she drives by there every day, and why we stopped there in this chunk. It was about, let's say, maybe 4 or 5 acres of forest. In Australia, they call it bush. And what we saw were bats. But when you say bats, it's not bats that anybody has seen before. These are the world's largest bats, no doubt. Their wingspan is 3.3 feet. I mean, wingspan as big as that. Right? And they have these red ruffs, and they're furry. They're called flying foxes. And they have faces that are actually kind of cute. People think they're creepy because they look like Chinese would say mogwai, right? They look like something that you would see in your worst dreams because of the wings. But in fact, they're very cool. And we saw them by the thousands, just thousands of these bats. They're all there. Let me see if I can share with you. Now, why am I introducing this? It's because here's some flying foxes, which you might be able to see on your screen, hanging upside down. And here are two, and you can see they've got personalities. These are intelligent critters. They're big, they're furry, and they have these wings, and they have their loving parents. They have babies, and they have families and stuff, and they hang upside down by their claws. They spread their wings, and they look like Dracula. Oh my goodness! So there they are, and as we were watching, here's a flying fox looking at you. And as we're watching, these bats are communicating with each other, playing around, flying around. And you can see somebody, Tori mentioned that the bats play with each other. She knows a relative, or I guess a neighbor. She has a neighbor who is a bat expert with the Australian Forest Service, and they were describing bat behavior, and a lot of what the bats do is play. Percentage of their behavior is just for the point of enjoying, of having fun with each other and goofing around and playing tricks and things. So they're intelligent creatures. One of the problems, they specialize right on our coast. We're lucky to be in one of the few places in all of Australia where these flying foxes congregate. The problem is there are too many of them, and they eat fruit. These are fruit bats. They don't use echo sonar location the way bats up at the City of 10,000 Buddhas do. They don't echolocate. They use their senses. They use their eyes, their nose, to find berries, and we have figs, and oh my goodness, they all come when our figs are ripe to our trees here. They're called fruit bats, and they can descend on a field and strip the field because there are thousands of them. And of course, they leave puddles on the floor, on the ground when they're done, puddles of bat pee and stuff. But so it's not all that pleasant. But individually, these creatures are fascinating. And so our text is what? Treasury of meanings, it says. And what occurred to me was, look at this, the samadhi of discerning the treasury of meanings. Because Tori had a neighbor who's with the Forest Service studying bats, they see a behavior and they know what's happening in the life of the creature. where I live, up the hill here, surrounded by trees, surrounded by bush, and surrounded by birds. And just by listening, just by paying attention, you begin to identify not just the species of birds, but a little bit about what they're saying. And I'm at the place where I can hear normal sounds. Are you there? I'm here. Are you safe? I'm safe. The birds make these calls at night. And also, I can hear when there's alarm, an alert, like, oh, there's a hawk overhead, or an eagle, a wedge-tailed eagle overhead, watch out. Or somebody has invaded our territory. There's a call for, defense. And I can start to hear these because I hear it every day. And it doesn't change, it's bird language. And I'm not saying I speak bird, but if you listen and you notice, and then you watch, you can see what sound accompanies what behavior. So the Bodhisattva imagine to be able to discern a treasury of meanings and be able to do what? Communicate. Just raise your eyebrow and the living beings know what's up. Drop your voice, living beings get it, right? So discerning a treasury of meanings, how wonderful. The samadhi of discerning meanings as they really are. Can't fool them. Can't fool them. They tell you that it was the largest. No, I'm not going to do that. So we'll keep politics completely out of it. So meanings as they really are. That one of the realities is, if I don't lie to others, if I never cover over the truth, when other people talk to me, my ear detects clearly when they are not telling the truth. If you never lie, it's really hard for people to fool you. The opposite is also true. If I lie a lot, cover my meanings, and only tell part of the stuff, the chances are I will be lied to, because I have set that energy in motion. So why does the Bodhisattva discern meanings as they really are? Because he has made it his business to explain meanings as they really are. The samadhi of, look at this one, skillfully abiding in durable roots. Oh my goodness, is that English? Skillfully abiding in durable roots. What in the world could that mean? Let's take a look here. 如实善住坚固根. Okay, let's take this one and retranslate it. Let's give it another. So the samadhi of shanju, of staying, of resting, of doing. Let's make it. Never mind trying to get it precise. Let's just use as many words as we need. Doing a good job of staying with sense faculties that don't go bad. There you go. That doesn't sound like a title, does it? These are all titles of samadhis. Take a look here. I think that's pretty close, actually. Yeah. Okay. Shan, good at. Zhu, staying with. Abiding in, resting in. Jiangu. Jiangu does not mean solid roots. You have shaky roots, unsolid roots? No. Jiangu can mean durable, unbreakable, lasting, right? This is the tires that don't wear out. A car you can drive for 10 years, that's jiangu. And gun here, roots is one translation, but I think more accurately, it's faculties, it's sense, liu gan, the 6 sense faculties. So he does a good job. He's good at abiding of his senses last a long time. They don't go bad. Something you could say that. They're aging well. You don't use hearing aids. You don't wear glasses, right? Your senses are still jiangu. Well, that's one way to explain it. Probably it's not, because the Avatamsaka rarely talks about old age, so it's not going bad so much. That, let's say it in a positive way, sense faculties that are stable. All right. Now, what if it's not sense faculties? What if it's wugan wuli? Like, what is a faculty with, like, faith is a faculty. Xin gan, mindfulness. Nian gan, that's a faculty. It's kind of like innate capacities. Innate capacities. And what are they? They are stable. What if it was faith? Faculties that are faithful. There we go. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Does a good job of staying, of resting, abiding. Abide with me. Doing a good job of resting in faculties that are stable. If somebody said, what in the world does that mean? I would say faith. Unshakable faith. Unshakable faith. There you go. Now I get it. Oh yeah. He's good at resting in stable, unshakable faculties, such as Xin Gan. There you go. Faculty of faith. All right, that makes sense now? Now, now that we've kind of explored it, how are we going to translate it? This originally was done as solid roots. You got solid roots. Dude, you got solid roots, man. Oh, thanks a lot. Solid roots, what do roots do? Roots funnel liquid and food and water. And if you have a solid root, the tree dies. That's not going to work. You can't use solid for jiangu. It's got to be undecaying, stable, secure. Secure faculties. Let's do that. Skillfully abiding in secure faculties, such as faith, for example. You don't doubt. Okay, better? People okay with that one? Can't see anybody. Jin Chuan, what do you think? What would you do with Shanzhu Jiangu Gan?
Still doesn't seem to make sense to me.
How about the way I explained it?
I don't know.
Such as faith.
Such as faith. Sanju Jiangu Gan. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. Sanju Jiangu Gan. Your five faculties are very solid.
Solid, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I just can't seem to get my mind around it.
Okay, Alan, Yihuan, Jinhe, Jinchuan, Jinshan, Jinfo. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think secure faculty seems a little bit, I don't know how to say that. I don't even know what I mean, secure faculty. But solid faculty is kind of more clear. I can see the picture. Stable or solid, okay. Yeah. That's kind of a little bit easier too.
Solid faculties? What's a solid faculty? Okay, if you're thinking of a university, the faculty is very solid, and the administration is not bad either, right? Yeah, the faculty is very broad and learned. Yeah, solid. They never go on strike.
Master,
different kind. Yeah, go ahead, Jin Hosher.
Does dependable come closer in meaning?
Dependable.
I mean, in terms of meaning, not the actual word.
I think, yeah. Well, so what could it be? If it's the sense faculties, then we're talking about eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. That just means never get old or something like that. Or even though you're old, they still work. You don't need glasses. I don't think that's it. Because the Avatamsaka pretty rarely talks about aging. for the human body. You know, it talks about other things. Here we are. There's our sentence. But if it's the inner faculties, like if you say, oh, 那个人呢很有善根, that person's got really wholesome, good roots. That means what? Ability to hear the Dharma. It's got compassion's seeds. It's got virtue. Those kinds of gun faculties are, you know, make sense. So, Jin He Sure, what do you think?
In terms of meaning, I can like unwavering, but in terms of the word for that particular sentence, I'm not so sure.
Okay. Unwavering, solid, stable, secure, unshakable. Anybody online got an idea? So it's not that we are mystified by it, it's that it's a little awkward. And let's look at our verb, the zhu, you stay with. I'm not satisfied with dwelling immediately as the translation. Dwelling is not all that common. Dwelling simply means you live somewhere. Where do you dwell? Oh, I dwell upstairs. You know, no, you don't. You live upstairs. Zhu can mean to live. So he's good at living in his solid roots. When you think of the hobbits, hobbits have a tree, right? And you can hollow out the tree roots and live in the tree. That's living safely in the solid roots. Of course, it doesn't mean that. So we have three things that we're not sure about. It's the verb, the dwelling part, the jiangu, stable, unwavering, unshakable, solid, and the faculties part. Would everybody agree that it's not the sense faculties? It's not eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind? What do you think? Yihuan? 不是六根啊. Okay.
About the adjective 坚固 here, because according to my memory, it's I didn't remember anywhere in the sutra, correct me if I'm wrong, use 坚固 to describe or modify the six faculties. So I do agree with you here. The gun here probably refer to our inner good roots. And also I'm reading the commentary from Venerable Master Hua's commentary here. Not many description about the 坚固根, but here there's a word grab my attention here, say 根力, 坚固根力. So probably the 根力 refer to the inside, the 性根 Fa Shi just mentioned.
Yeah, okay. So the bigger question to make sense of this is, what are shangan? Because boy, that comes up all the time in the Avatamsaka. If you say aging doesn't come up, wealth doesn't come up. The sutra doesn't talk about poor people and rich people. It doesn't talk about young people and old people. It talks about inner qualities. Your shangan being very keen, very li, or very dun, very, very dull. So what are those? What are shangan? It's what you get from cultivation. I think like ignorance is the wuming, is a generic for all the troubles that we have, including what? Affliction, including desire, including, troubles, suffering. Wuming is the cause of all those. The generic for all the good stuff that happens is shangan. What does that include? That includes merit, and virtue, and blessings, and insight, and all the good things. So good roots includes that. What would that be? It would be faith, for example. It would be kindness would be one. Patience, all the paramitas would be You increase your shangan, you increase your paramitas. So if it's those, then he's good at abiding in stable, stable meaning can't be shaken, stable faculties. They don't come and go. Samadhi, yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at the Sanskrit, and the actual words being used is mula, which is used for kushala mula, roots of goodness.
Mula.
And the word for usually the faculties, like the sense faculties, is indriya. And also the word for the 5 faculties or the spiritual faculties, when we're talking about the faith, mindfulness, wisdom, is also indriya. So I think this might be pointing to the wholesome roots. It doesn't have kusala there, it only says mula. It says drita mula, which is strong, reliable roots. Dependable roots.
Yeah. Roots are invisible. They're under the ground. You don't see the roots that hold the tree up, but no tree exists without roots. Once the tree is uprooted, then you go, wow, look how extensive that root system was. So, okay. All right. So what is it? Step back and take a look again. It's a samadhi. And what kind of samadhi is it? It's a samadhi of being good at, skillfully staying with, dwelling in, abiding with what? Gun faculties, qualities that are what? Stable. Jiangu. They don't shift. Okay? So provisionally, let's go with this one. Moving forward here. Thanks for your help with that. 智慧神通门 Same. Chinese here. It's a samadhi. What kind? It's a gateway samadhi. It's a door samadhi. What kind? A shentong, psychic power, 智慧, wisdom, gateway samadhi. The samadhi of the gateway, gateways. Let's do more than one. Doesn't have to be one. Gateways to spiritual powers and wisdom. Fair enough? These are obviously not beginner's states, but anybody can get there. Next one, 法界业, 3 words, samadhi. What kind of samadhi? Dharma, realm, karma. The samadhi of karma of the Dharma realm. What would karma of the Dharma realm be? To my mind, it would be something like when you transfer merit, the scope of your mind is really big. You're not simply transferring merit to grandma who's, osteoporosis, she took a fall. That's a good place to transfer for sure, but someone who's got karma of the Dharma realm working would transfer to everybody's grandma who's experiencing suffering. How about refugees who they hear that the insurgents are descending on their town? They're going to be here tomorrow, and so you pack up and you go. And grandma has medicine in the refrigerator, and you've got to go. And, grandma's bones are fragile, and she's in a cart that bumps over the bumpy road. And, right, you transfer to everybody's grandma. And bit by bit, you can the karma of the Dharma realm would include what? 3 evil destinies, 3 wholesome destinies, the Pratyeka Buddhas, the Arhats, and the Bodhisattvas. You transfer to everyone. That would be one kind of Dharma realm karma. Refers to the scope of your mind, I think. Next one, 如来胜利 Same. The samadhi of Tathagata's supreme li. 如来胜利. Supreme is probably good. For sheng, sometimes victorious, like sheng li, a winner. the one that wins, the best, right? Supreme. And Li here, only if it's Li. Probably it is here. Li, this word in Chinese, has got different connections, and it goes in different directions depending on what it's connected to. Benefiting is one of them, but probably it would be the E instead of the Li. Here it can mean to be victorious, to the winning qualities of the Tathagata, defeating ignorance, defeating doubt and delusion. It could also mean the Tathagata's quickness, meaning they're clever, sharp. Probably not, but that Li could also go in that direction. Tathagata's supreme benefiting. Yihuan, how does Shifu define that one? Do you have the commentary with you?
Here in the commentary, the Chinese says, 他善于如来最殊胜利益众生的正定. That's the Chinese.
Okay, that's where this translation came from. So, ability to benefit, supreme benefiting. I'm going to benefit you. We don't say that. We don't say that. I'm going to give to you is what we say. Stand still. I'm going to benefit you now. It's like, what? No, you're not. The samadhi of Tathagata's supreme helping or generosity, supreme giving. That's what we say. Help, aiding. Okay, and another one, last one. 种种义藏生死涅槃门三昧. This is a complex one. There's multiple ideas together. It's a samadhi. It's a gateway samadhi. And what kind? A nirvana samsara gateway samadhi. Furthermore, it's a treasury of meaning in many kinds. So many kinds of meaning treasury, samsara nirvana gateway samadhi. That's complex. He enters, let's see here, the samadhi of the gateways, more than one, to the treasury of manifold meanings of birth and death and nirvana. Oh boy. Y'all get that much? It's a lot, huh? What kind? There are ways into, gateways open to something else, to the treasury of manifold meanings. That's one idea. So in other words, not simple, not just one, but many meanings. Bunch of meanings. Of what? Of birth and death and nirvana. Okay. Have you been with anybody who, when you were seeing something simple, the person with you was seeing deeper? And they explained it, and you go, whoa, I never saw that. I've had that happen. It's like some people see further. Their vision goes further. And if they kind of pull back the curtain, you realize, oh, I was only looking at the surface. I had no idea there was all that behind it. What would be a simple explanation of that? The 5 contemplations. The 5 contemplations at lunch. What do we do at lunch, right? This offering of the faithful is the fruit of work and care. And often, Shifu would explain, he would say, you got a grain of rice in your bowl there, and you just look at it and go, rice, no flavor, I'll eat it. I need to eat it to stay alive. You have no idea how much work went into that single grain of rice. From the sun that sparked it, to the fertilizer that fed it, to the water that nourished it, to the ground that grew it, to the sweat of the farmer, to the gasoline that went into the tractor, and the truck that brought it to market, and then the cook who cleaned it, washed it, put it in, carefully cooked it, put it on the table, and you look at it and you go, just rice. He would say, Sure would say, you really don't have enough wisdom. You're losing all your blessings if you don't appreciate all the work that went into it. Okay, there's an example, right? Single grain of rice opens to this whole ecosystem of production. Another way is apple. You look at an apple, and if you cut the apple open, there's a seed. And that seed has the potential to grow an entire apple tree that then produces limitless apples. And each apple has in it seeds. And each seed can produce a tree and can produce apples that have seeds that produce tree, right? So that's one of those examples of what a treasury of meanings, many, many gateways to show more than you thought on the surface. However, what's powerful about this is these are meanings that take us to birth and death and nirvana. Here I was today in meditation class this morning, and we were talking about the motive for meditation. Why meditate? And said it was really good to set your intention when you start, just so it's more than simply, well, it's time to meditate. If you have an intention, whatever it might be, it will pull you back day after day because you're clear about what you have in mind. And so we went around, and one of the people asking about this said, well, I really am looking for peace of mind. Peace of mind. That's why she wanted to meditate. And it's a really good motive. Probably 50% of the people who come to meditate would say something similar. In that circumstance, these are mostly beginners. I was the only monastic in the room. If you say, how many of you came to meditate in order to put an end to birth and death and to transcend samsara and to reach nirvana's ultimate bliss? They would have gone, excuse me, we wanted to meditate. What are you talking about? Right? So in the world of mindfulness, which is big in the world now, it's a real movement and a fad, and it's gone into the schools. Wow. Right in Berkeley Monastery, we have Thursday night, we have Kate Munding, who's the new facilitator for the Thursday night meditation community. And she's teaching meditation in schools along with others. And these kids are coming out of up to 6th grade already having logged hours of meditation. It's tremendous to have happen. But how many of those kids have the sense that the Buddha's motive for meditation was to end all suffering, was to transcend birth and death, and to reach nirvana and liberation? Like, that language is not there mostly, right? And yet, why not? That's, if you ask most monastics, that's the language we hear when we leave home, when we prepare to become monks. That's what the Buddha did. Our religion, our tradition, our faith began with that project in mind. I want to end suffering. Can suffering stop, is the Buddha's first question. Yes, it can. How do you do it? Well, sit under this tree until you figure it out. So there we go. Yeah, this is a powerful samadhi. And the Bodhisattva enters 1,000,000 such samadhis of perfecting gateways to great wisdom and psychic powers, which purify this ground. I'm not satisfied with that one. Jing, zhi, ci, di, which regulate and put in order. That's better. To purify the ground sounds like you're out there with soap and water. You know, that doesn't make sense in my English vocabulary. I'm going to purify this ground, which put this ground in shape. That's what we say. Oops. Which really, you put it in shape. You make it look the way it's supposed to look. Put this ground in order. Jingzhi. Anybody have a problem with that one? Here's the Chinese word, to jingzhi, purely regulate this ground. What do you think? To put it in order, meaning, in real English, we say, put it in shape, straighten it up. And of course, the ground doesn't need straightening up. It's the Bodhisattva who is orienting himself to this course of learning. Psychic powers which put this ground in order. Jingzhi, which regulate in regular order, which regulate, put this ground in order, in proper order, something like that. Straighten it around, straighten it up. Okay, we'll continue to work on that. All right, we didn't get as far as I wanted to go, but we went through 10 samadhis, and we talked a lot about what a samadhi is. Okay, part of the seventh ground. The Bodhisattva is going to need these samadhis, and every time he goes into these samadhis and Chu comes out of these samadhis, his or her stillness of mind improves, gets better, gets stronger, and his stillness and concentration is better, and he becomes a nicer person, kinder, right? Less likely to get angry, more able to think of ways out of situations that don't require raising his voice. Ooh, tough. Okay, our time has come up to 9 o'clock. Thank you all for being part of this lecture. I'm going to India tomorrow, to Ahmedabad in Gujarat, to be part of Service Space's Gandhi 3.0 event. And it's a gathering for 3 or 4 days in the place where the Gandhi ashram was established. So these are people who still remember Mohandas Gandhi and the Mahatma, and try to keep alive some of the transcendent ways he had of overcoming conflict. It's a good thing to do at the time that we find ourselves in. I'm sure it's going to be inspiring, and I'll just be there for a week and come right back. We're making real progress in Master Hua's biography. Here's another picture of a flying fox family. Check out these characters. When I said thousands, this is just one little corner. They went back and back and back and back. Notice the ears on this guy. Can you imagine 3 feet long wings? They spread their wings and they are vast. Each flying fox matures weighs about 2 pounds. So kind of like a cat. They're actually very cat-like. And when they're young, they're super cute. Baby flying foxes are really cute. The wings are creepy. They look like vampire wings. How about that? Flying foxes. We're going to go back there with a tripod and get some proper views on the flying foxes. Fruit bats, the world's largest bats. No joke. So next week, I will be in India for the next Saturday. So we're going to invite Jinpo Shi to continue his Amitabha lectures. And Jinchuan, you want to make some announcements, or Jinho, who's up for announcements?
Okay, so Buddhist for the Modern Mind on this Monday night, starting at 7:30 with Doug Powers. We'll also be starting Marty's class on Friday night, this February 3rd. Oh yes, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay, so 2 weeks. February 3rd. Start with Marty's class. Anything else? The Wednesday class is already started. Stephen Tainer. Thursday's ongoing with the East Bay Insight Meditation. And next week on Saturday we'll have the Chinese New Year or the Lunar New Year event here in Berkeley Monastery. So we'll be starting at 8:30 in the morning, reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. We expect a large crowd, so people can all, I think, come and join in the what do you call it, the Dharma practice for starting the Lunar New Year. Jing Fosher said we'll also let people out a little bit early so you can get home to your families as well. But we'll still have lecture that evening, so people can come for the evening lecture on Amitabha, the Limitless Life Sutra.
It's also Maitreya Bodhisattva's birthday. Don't forget that.
Oh, and Maitreya Bodhisattva's birthday. I think I heard at lunchtime we'll also be going to Oakland Museum the following Sunday, which is February 12th, right? February 12th. So another week after that, we'll be going to the Oakland Museum for their Lunar New Year festivities. So I'll be on February 12th.
That's for the city of Oakland and Berkeley. That's a big deal.
Nothing else?
Good indeed.
Okay, that's it. I think that's it here at Berkeley.
All right, great. Okay, there's not reliable internet communication from Ahmedabad, so I won't be able to share stories until I'm back. But I'll have pictures and stories about India when I'm back for sure. All right, great. Let me ask our tech team, how many folks were online today? I closed my control panel here. Let's see, 36. Was that at the beginning? Yeah, 36. Good. That's a lot of folks. Good stuff. We had 40 in the Sixth Patriarch lecture on Saturday. So actually 39. So that's our largest contingent is now coming from Poland, believe it or not, which is really exciting. All right. So let's transfer the merit and use a Dharma realm, a karma of the Dharma realm mind to transfer the merit. Here we go. Notice this is, may our minds awake and dispel the darkness instead of break. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one, with life, share the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and need. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become passionate and one. May all become compassionate and one. All right. Have a a week full of blessings and wisdom. 是道之进，非道在退. If it's the Tao, walk forward, advance. If it's not the Tao, retreat. See you all in 2 weeks. Amitofo.